The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Ready to go to the top heels of pro wrestling.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at this. Wow, you really did your homework, too. This is impressive.
I really want you to critique it the right way, as you always do.
Well,
you won't let me down.
It's gonna be hard, though. Please don't ask me to rearrange the numbers.
I'm not asking you to rearrange, but you can tell me, like, there's no way this guy should be on the list, or there's no way this guy should be this low. That's fine.
Okay.
Right? Or
fair enough.
There's no way this guy should be this high, like you usually do.
Right.
And you know what? And usually I agree with you. Not disagree. I agree with you. At number 25, I chose Ole Anderson. Now, before you comment, I just want to say I tried to choose wrestlers that were heels, but clearly they could have been faces at some point in their career too. But I tried to, number one, as a heel, did you find them entertaining? Number two, as a heel, did you hate their guts? You know,
impact.
That whole heel impact.
Yeah.
So number 25, Ole Anderson.
That's a great pick. He deserves to be on anybody's list. And Mike, we both know for a fact, because of all the couple of hundred guests we've had at this point over the years, no one is more universally despised. Forget about on screen. Off screen than Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson is one of the all-time pricks. He was great on screen. He's a real prick.
Yeah, I agree. And I hated Ole Anderson. There was never a point, even when the Four Horsemen turned on him and beat the crap out of him, I'm like, I hate that guy. Kill him. Kill him.
You know what I love about him, though? And it's one of the most endearing things that I look for in a heel. Not just the fact that you hate him and he's just irreversibly unlikable, you know? You knew he was tough. Or at least he sure as shit came off that way. You know what I'm saying? He really looked like a guy who would hop off an 18-wheeler and pound the fuck out of you for your big gulp. You know what I'm saying? You know? He definitely could be on anybody's top 25. He could be much higher depending on where you grew up and what programs you were watching.
Nice. Number 24. What a day, Joe Lowry. No, I'm sorry.
Dude, he doesn't deserve. Wait a minute, he doesn't deserve to be on this list. You actually have to be someone before you could be declared, anything. So no.
All right, how about Wheezy Blonde? Can we throw her on number 20?
That doesn't work for me either, dude. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
All right. Serious note. Greg the Hammer Valentine, number 24.
All right. Well, how dare you put Greg Valentine this low? How dare you? Are you out of your mind? Like, I don't know where I would put him. I got to be honest, because you did all very impressive job here. There's 25 awesome names here. As I jot down some I already haven't seen, so I can complain later. Stand by. How is this guy not higher on this list? First of all, he broke my main man's leg. All right. First of all. All right. He went around with T-shirts. He was hated in every territory he ever came to. He left a string of mangled legs behind. Are you yawning during my Greg Valentine speech?
No, I'm sorry.
Did I catch that?
No.
How dare you? Unbelievable. You did that on purpose. You no good. Bro, all right. I totally agree he's on the list. I would have him much higher, but I am so partial to Greg the Hammer Valentine. What a great all-time villain.
Well, let's see, because the list is long. You could be like, hey, Greg should be above this guy. So here's number 23, the great Kabuki. That's a surprise entry for you, Jimmy. When I put it on the list, I'm like, Jimmy's going to be like, what is this?
It is. I raised an eyebrow rock style when I saw that one. I was like, whoa, really?
Can I give you my reasons why before you answer?
Sure.
Reasons why. He was always a heel, right? I think he came back as a baby face for like some bullshit. But anyway, I fucking hated that guy. Every time he was in the ring, I just hated him. I hated his face. I hated his green mist. I hated him. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Jimmy.
All right. You know what? Can I just throw in names if it reminds me of someone else who might have been a better selection?
Sure.
How's that sound? When I see Kabuki, I agree with you. What a great heel. He's a total prick and everything like that. But if you're gonna do the Kabuki thing, I actually think Yokozuna was a greater heel than the great Kabuki.
Fair enough.
That's I'll just mention that.
It's nothing
one.
like racial profiling by the Pharaoh in pro wrestling, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, if what do you want to wear a
I mean, why does Yokozuna have to be with Craig? Because they're supposed to. First of all, Yokozuna was Samoan, by the way, just so we make that clear.
Right. Well, Strombo was Italian. I mean, the fuck are we talking about here? No, but matter of fact, I had already written down Yokozuna's name. I have 3 other names I don't see because I was doing some speed reading.
Gotcha.
But Yokozuna, when I thought of Kabuki, hey, you know what? Hey, all you racially sensitive people, stand by, because now I'm thinking of Mr. Fuji. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a good point. Fuji, I could see Fuji be on the list.
I heard Cobra Kai was really good this season.
Oh, dude, Cobra Kai's rocking, dude. I was going to talk to you about that, man. Unbelievable. Yeah. And they ended after 5 shows, and you can't watch the November now. Unbelievably good.
Yeah, well, you know what, Mike? Try being a fan of Tulsa King. I'm sitting here and waiting and waiting.
Tulsa King is so good, man.
You know?
All right, wait a minute. So Kabuki shouldn't be on the list, is what you're saying?
No. As a matter of fact, let me. You know what? I won't put Yokozuna there. What I will do is I will say this to you. Where is Larry Zbyszko?
Interesting. Maybe he's on the list, unless you want to give stuff away. I don't. You see, there you go. You and your pen. The pen.
I don't. Well, you knew I would do this. Go ahead. Look at this. I got the pen.
All right.
Come on.
Number 22.
Yeah.
Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, he should definitely be on the list. You know, it's funny, when I brought this up earlier to Karen McDaniel, obviously, she was like, you better put Tully on there. So I'm glad that you have Tully down, because Tully's obviously one of the all-time greats as far as being a prick. Dude, did you like Tully Blanchard? I couldn't stand
Hated Tully Blanchard. Never liked him, ever. That guy was the typical heel that you hate. Like, that guy, what a... Actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. He should have maybe been higher, but I couldn't put him higher. Yeah, but you know what? I couldn't put him higher because you know what? He was always like a tag team champion.
That's true.
Or the United States champion, a TV champion. He never got the heavyweight title, so it was like, but boy, did I hate him. All right. This was a tough one because I wasn't sure if I should put him on considering how much people love him, but I guess I had to. The Iron Sheik at number 21.
Oh, he could be higher. I could see him being higher. That's one of the all-time great villains, and you probably won't even have anybody like that anymore. I mean, they wouldn't even dare do his gimmick today, probably, because you'd piss somebody off. It's very insensitive. You're stereotyping. The original Hakuga.
There you go, Hakuga.
Yeah, Iron Sheik could easily be higher on this list.
So right now, Kabuki is the only one that you think shouldn't be on the list, and you just think there could be some changes to the list in order.
Yes. I could easily swap him out for Larry Zbyszko or somebody like that, but I'll probably just read the names I was thinking of after we're done.
All right, sounds good. Number 20, the Chief Operating Officer for the WWE, Triple H.
Oh, easily one of the greatest villains of all time. I could see him being higher on the list. Listen, during the Attitude Era, sure, Undertaker's always been a consistent source, whatever. I totally get that. But the number one heel, the guy they went to every week, whether Austin was injured or whether The Rock was, getting ready to do movies or whatever was going to go on, there was one constant, that son of a bitch, Triple H, that nasty villain. And he was a nasty villain for years and years and years. World champion, just at the set. True, he had nepotism. You know what, though? He was great. Look, if he was a bad heel and wasn't doing his job well, Vince would have found someone else to do that. Okay? He was perfect at what he did. What a prick.
By the way, Lou says Sheik should be in the top 10.
I can see that easily, Luce. Easily.
All right. Triple H okay at number 20, or you think he should be higher too?
He could be, but again, like this is a very massive, not easy undertaking you did here. So I don't have an issue, really. This is your list. It's your opinion on it. Could I see Triple H being higher? Sure, I could.
Number 19, Ted DiBiase.
He could be higher. It goes to show how many great villains there have been in this business.
Right.
Look, the $1 Million Man is one of the greatest villains that ever existed.
In
I mean, kicking
actuality,
the
I think
bed.
when we had them in studio, you might have even said he was in the top 5 greatest villains of all time. So,
He's up there.
rethinking about this, 19 is kind of rough. And by the way, Benny Scholars thought that Gary Hart should have been a better choice than Kabuki, being that he was
I agree.
Gary Hart was his manager.
I actually agree with Benny on that one. Gary Hart was a great villain. I would think of him being carrying more heel heat than Kabuki easily, easily.
So I think I might have made a mistake with DiBiase, but my list stands. You're here to correct it. Number 18, Randy Orton.
I'm glad Randy is on the list because it would be, to me, historically ignorant to ignore. You see, every Batman needs a Joker. John Cena being the face obviously filled that Batman role, and Randy Orton was a delicious villain. What an absolute psycho. What a lunatic. What a great bad guy he was. He was the Joker to John's Batman for a generation. This wasn't something that went on for 3 weeks. It was for a generation. I loved when he was punting people's heads in, RKOing Stephanie McMahon, some of the crazy crap that Randy Orton did. And I'm so happy that Randy Orton gets the love and respect now from the fans. But I remember once upon a time when he was creating this incredible body of work early in his career and even into his prime of his career, where people were just down on him and blah, blah, he's this, he's that. He's fucking great. He's an Orton. He's everything that's right about the wrestling business. He's the consummate professional, too. He's a machine in the ring. If his style doesn't do it for you, that doesn't mean you have to put your blinders on and just hate on him. Randy Orton is a great worker and a great villain.
Higher on the list?
No, I'm okay with it. I'm just glad he was
I mean,
on your
eventually
list.
we can't have so many guys high on the list because once we go through
Right.
the list, you're
I
like,
agree.
yeah, well,
I agree. In this case, I'm glad he's on the list.
Right, gotcha.
You just made the list.
Well, speaking of that, number 17, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, Chris Jericho.
One of the greatest heels of his generation. Listen, Jericho's always been in my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, and it's never been from when he's a good guy. Of course, I enjoyed the list and his stuff with Kevin Owens and stuff, but in general, I loved the bad guy, the arrogant Ayatollah of rock and rolla, the ultimate wrestler in the ring and the ultimate promo guy. And he rocked. Chris Jericho reeked of everything cool, in a very, very egotistical, smirky kind of way. Jericho is great.
You know what's very interesting, dude? Foxy wrote out that Moolah should be on the list. And you know what? I'm going to call a foul on my end. I don't think I put one female on this list, which is a little surprising. Might have been another mistake by me. All right, number 16. People may not like this one, but the Fabulous Freebirds.
What's there to not like about that? They were the bad guys. They were the Darth Vader to the Von Erich's Luke Skywalker. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with that. The Fabulous Freebirds were absolutely hated. Try going through Texas with the Freebird color on.
Could you imagine, dude? Could you imagine?
No. The Freebirds were definitely one of the all-time great bad guys. You want to call them a faction now, fine, but they were a tag team that managed to function with 3. And they broke every rule, and they were despised. They were hated. You know how I feel about Michael Hayes. As the leader of those bad guys, with that David Lee Roth rock and roll look and everything that he had going on, the way he could talk, I saw a world champion in Michael Hayes.
I'm always amazed by your comment on that because I was a huge Michael Hayes guy too, but he
had everything.
And by the way, you can go to our channel and you can go look at the documentary that we posted on the Freebirds. It's about 38 minutes or so. It's really good, but there's a point where they're making the claim that Vince was going to take the belt from Hulk Hogan and give it to Michael Hayes, who was going to turn on the Well, maybe he wasn't going to beat Hulk Hogan. Hogan was going to lose to somebody, and Michael Hayes is going to turn on the Freebirds and become a face, and he was going to be the head of rock and wrestling. He was actually, supposedly, supposed to bring Cyndi Lauper to the Grammy Awards where Hogan stepped in his place, right, because they got fired.
Right. Look, I wouldn't want to change anything with history. It turned out to work exactly the way it should have for Vince and for the future of WrestleMania, et cetera, et cetera. But if there had been one guy without the ego, I'm sure the personality came into this, without the over-the-top ego, if he could have stuck to business, That one guy who could have done that rock and roll thing. Look, Shawn Michaels isn't around yet. Is Michael Hayes in the early
but you know,
80s.
here's the thing. Nothing against Hayes because I loved him, but he was not a good wrestler, dude. He was less than serviceable, though. Less than serviceable.
I think that he could have been serviceable because if he was less than serviceable, people would have not invested that heavily into the Von Erich Freebird program. So he was serviceable. I think that he was always serviceable. I didn't think he was a poor worker. You know, he wasn't obviously a Dynamite Kid or Tiger Mask or whatever, but look, his job was to put on a show. You know, girls would piss themselves when he came out there, right? You know that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They would literally piss themselves. When you have girls out there completely like fainting over somebody, you know, when I look at Michael Hayes, I think of Jeff Hardy. And I just think wrong place, wrong time. Because if Michael Hayes had come up years later, you know, and been able to get over with what he was doing, he could have easily been not a Jeff Hardy in the ring, but a Jeff Hardy accepted kind of world champion, if that makes any kind of sense. And I'm not sure it does, but, you know, he wasn't the biggest guy, but he had the charisma and the girls loved him. And those kind of things can usually take you a very long way if you're in the business of entertainment.
Good stuff. All right, we're into the 15, man. We're halfway home. This is a list.
Right.
So far, Pharaoh says Kabuki should not be on this list. He agrees with everybody else, but he thinks they could be in a different place. But he's kind of settled in with the Freebirds being where they are and Randy Orton being where they are. So maybe we're coming a little closer. Number 15, the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Macho Man, when he was a heel, was one of the greatest heels that ever lived. I think he could go higher on this list. The I Hate You Hulk Hogan is still my favorite promo. I go back to it all the time. I can't get enough of it.
Right.
I love when he's evil.
Oh yeah.
You know, when he turned on Hogan, oh my God, that is some of his greatest work ever. He was just a tremendous everything.
You know,
not too many guys on this list.
I got to ask you about this because you brought up Cobra Kai, right? And you've seen all the Karate Kids, right?
No.
You saw the first one?
No, I haven't.
How about the first one?
I saw the first one, and then I got to see, I would like to say, the first or possibly even the second season of Cobra Kai, and then life got in the way, and I've never returned.
Okay, but you understand the concept of Cobra Kai, right? It's after Karate Kid. It's two people.
Sure.
There's two people living, right? Their lives afterwards, right? And it's Daniel LaRusso, who's played by Ralph Macchio, right? And who's the other guy? Fuck, who's the blonde head kid?
He's the blonde kid who was the bad guy in the original movie.
Okay, so and if anyone could give me the name, because again I'm old and I keep forgetting. Here's my question.
Yeah.
And this is the parlay into Hogan Macho Man.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate. Daniel LaRusso comes to California. He meets a girl. Good-looking girl. Johnny. Thank you, Gerard. Johnny's girl, who they break up. So Johnny's obviously upset, right? He lost his hot girl, and now she's hanging out with LaRusso. So he comes to the beach to talk to her, and what does Daniel LaRusso? Tries to embarrass him and tell him to get away from her. Big tough guy. So Johnny beats the shit out of him. Okay? End the thing, right? Then they're done. But the kid doesn't stop. He just keeps coming for more Macho, fucking Danny LaRusso, because he's a stupid kid from Jersey. And every time, they're at a Halloween party, Johnny's rolling some dubs. You could appreciate that. And what does LaRusso do? He takes a hose and he pours water all over Johnny, ruining all his weed. Now, you'd be angry too. So they chase him down, and Johnny beats the shit out of him.
Right.
Then Johnny...
Good.
Right? Then Johnny is in the All-Valley tournament, and this fucking kid beats him and takes his title away. Who's really wrong? And now let's go back. You mentioned Macho Man turning on Hogan. Let's think about this again. And I know people have discussed this, but Hogan puts his hand on Elizabeth's ass. Hogan all of a sudden's carrying Elizabeth all over the place. Hogan's doing this. Macho Man has a little bit of a right to get a little pissed off here. Why is he the heel in this whole situation? And we're Hogan guys, I get it, but Hogan was doing him a little bit dirty, wasn't he?
Because he turned on say your prayers and take your vitamins. How dare you question the Hulkster? The hell's
Wow.
wrong with you?
Wow.
He only had his hand on her ass because he had lifted her up to put her on his shoulders. We won, everybody. Wow, you really twisted this. Hulkster didn't do nothing
Elizabeth
wrong,
got hit by Macho Man. Hogan leaves Macho Man to get beat up by the Twin Towers, right? Akeem and Big Boss Man. Has to carry Elizabeth back. Meanwhile, grabbing some titty, walking down. We all saw that too. And Macho Man is the bad guy.
All you're telling me is this Hogan is a genius.
Wow.
That's all I'm getting out of this.
You're just
He's
wrong.
A genius.
You're
Listen,
wrong.
I'm not going to change how I rooted for that program. You're not doing that to me.
You're wrong.
Nope.
You're wrong in so many ways.
Probably.
All right, number 14, Mr. Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I can't argue that he could be higher or lower, but I'm glad he's here. He should be here. Mr. Perfect was fantastic. He was one of the best. Who the hell's better than Mr. Perfect, really, when you think about it?
Dude.
Nobody.
How perfect was perfect?
He was perfect.
He was perfect.
I still think back when he flipped the basketball over his head.
Oh, my God. How about when he caught his own 100-yard pass? How about when he hit like 20 strikes in a perfect 200 game? The 300 game. The guy was incredible. He was perfect.
He caught his own 100-yard pass. And they ended up convincing. Oh man, he was so great. God damn it!
I'm interested in this one. What you're gonna think about
fucking
this?
Drugs, man. It gets you every time. Go ahead.
All right, this one's gonna. I feel very confident in this pick. I want to hear what you got to say. Number 13, The Miz.
Okay, now let's go back. Now, I don't have an issue with Miz being on the list, by the way. Miz is a great pain in the ass, and everybody hates Miz. So he's definitely naturally hateable. I got no problem with that. But you're going to tell me that you put Miz at 13 and Greg Valentine at 24? Now, I know you like good fucking wine, but apparently you like good fucking wine a lot more than I thought you did. The Miz a greater heel than Triple H, the Iron Sheik, Tully Blanchard, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho? No. The Miz winds up going to the back of this list. But that's the only, and you know what, Mike? You got to give me some credit here. I haven't found anything else that I'm
your comment is fair when you look at it by the way you're approaching it. You know what? You could be right. I gotta ask you one other question though. Dan Sebastiano wrote, if Mr. Perfect had played by Terry Taylor as originally planned, how would it have turned out? So here's my scenario here.
Terrible.
Number one, and I might be the only one that ever says this, I loved the Red Rooster. Okay? I did. I loved the Red Rooster.
Why?
He was fucking awesome, dude. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. I think Terry Taylor could have been a good Mr. Perfect. Could he have been the perfect? No. That was for Kurt Hennig. But I believe if history had written it himself, he would have been a good Mr. Perfect character. On the other hand, could Kurt Hennig have been the Red Rooster?
No, and neither one could be either. Terry Taylor's promos would have absolutely been Limp Bizkits. No way.
All right, you're right. You're right.
No.
All right.
No.
Number 12, Gino Hernandez.
Oh, what a great bad guy. Oh, my God. And we barely got to get a glimpse of him. I could see why he would be on the list. I don't know where I would put him. I mean, like, if you grew up in those days in that territory, my God, he's probably in your top 5.
He falls into, like, I hate your guts no matter what, always will hate your guts.
Absolutely. You want to reach through the screen and choke him.
I want to, it's because we're on limited time here, right? I want to get through the list a little faster so we can get to you and your final comments because that's probably the most important part. This I'll take a beating for. This was a tough one. I was really having a lot of trouble with this dude. He moved from like number 4 to number 8, and I couldn't figure it out, and I finally just put him in the slot. Number 11, Paul Heyman.
He could be higher. I could see him being higher. He's definitely makes the list, obviously. Paul Heyman, come on, man. He's been the voice of the most evil, crusher in the last 20 years, Brock Lesnar. He's the best at what he does. Nobody's done better than him at his spot.
That was the most difficulty I had, Jimmy. I could not because when we get to the list, you go, oh man, okay, number 10, and I felt he had to be on the list, and he had to be high. Abdullah the Butcher.
Hard to argue with Abdullah being in anybody's top 10. Abdullah was he was a global terror. You know, his job was just to come into town, start a bloodbath, possibly start a riot, which sometimes would happen, especially in Puerto Rico, and leave, and then rinse, wash, and repeat. Well, I mean, we got to have Abdullah on several times in person, so we know Abdullah fairly well, all things considered. And to gaze upon his forehead in person, Mike, how would you describe to be looking at Abdullah the Butcher's forehead?
Crazy.
I mean,
crazy as advertised.
Yep.
As advertised.
He deserves it. He deserves it one way or the other. He deserves to be up there.
This man has to be in the top 10, considering that he defeated Bruno Sammartino, Ivan Koloff.
Oh, no doubt. The prototype. Is there a Iron Sheik years later without Ivan Koloff? Is there a Sergeant Slaughter years later without Ivan Koloff? Is there, Ivan Koloff was the prototype for the enemy is overseas and the enemy is now here. Back when we were probably less sensitive about our country's differences and our borders and everything else and our backgrounds and the color of us and all this other shit. Ivan Koloff was your prototypical I hate the Russians and I hate America because I'm a Russian and I hate all of you. You all must die.
Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent comment.
Fucking great. Great.
This was tough. This is the guy I was going back and forth with Heyman, and I finally decided that people love Heyman too much for him to be above this guy. Number 8, Captain Lou Albano.
I can see why you had that problem. Captain Lou was one of those rare ones, though, who was able to. People always forget what a beloved face he became, right?
Yeah, he did. He did.
He did. He was able to do that. Captain Lou Albano was so hated, man. Do you remember, Mike, in the early days when I first turned you on to wrestling in the early 80s? Once in a blue moon, Albano would actually wrestle, and the opponent would get their hands on him.
Yep.
Do you remember the Garden crowd
when
Tony Gurrier
Oh my God.
or Rick Martel fired a straight right to Lou Albano's forehead? The place went wild. Anything to see Lou Albano beat up. What a great villain. Oh, my God. Clearly top 10 material.
Oh, and by the way, Dan Sebastiano says, did you know that Benny Scala thinks Ivan Koloff should be in the Hall of Fame?
There we go.
You know what?
Done,
in this podcasting world, there's certain lines you'll never forget, and that's one of them. I don't know how many times Benny Scala will say Ivan Koloff should be in the Hall of Fame.
You know what? And to defend Benny, I don't know how many times he has to say it, but he's going to be right about that every single time.
There's two lines that always stick in my head, right? It's Benny Scala, Ivan Koloff should be in the Hall of Fame, and the other line is Evan Ginsberg, my father made $25,000 a year. Those are the two lines that are always repeated. And then there's Blonde Wheezy, who just says nothing.
Right. Well, Evan Ginsberg just texted me. Hold on a second. It says, "You motherfucker, where's John Tolos?" Ran.
Oh, there you go. Well, maybe it is. Number 7. No, it's not John Tolos. It's Andre the Giant.
Very, very happy he's here and he's ranked up high. Andre the Giant, obviously, and another guy who was able to be a beloved face, but also, you know what? To sum up Andre the Giant's effectiveness as a heel, Mike, I always think back on WrestleMania 3. Remember the carts that they took them out to the ring in? They were riding the carts at WrestleMania 3 to get to the ring. They were on carts.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget the amount of garbage thrown at Andre the Giant when he was getting ready to fight Hulk Hogan and on the way out too. Oh my God, was he despised? So despised. Let me ask you this. Without Andre the Giant, how effective is the Heenan family without having Andre the Giant? I mean, it was going to be great one way or the other, but you realize what having Andre the Giant in that stable did for that family. And how seriously you took them.
Absolutely, dude. And again, don't forget, he sold out the Pontiac Silverdome. So, I mean, that alone. And by the way, RJ Hubson says, I guess Hannibal's not on the list. No. Hannibal's dying a slow death, if anyone doesn't realize it. He's struggling out there. Number 6, the manager of Andre the Giant, the Heenan family you just mentioned, Bobby Heenan, number 6.
Yep. The probably the greatest of all the despised managers. I mean, Bobby Heenan. You know, it's weird though. Bobby was really special because as much as you hated him, you still laughed at his jokes. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
weird.
I hated the guy.
Right.
I hated the guy, but there was something about him that just cracked me up. He drew real true heat. You know, it's funny, Mike, and I know he would never be on your list, but when I think of Bobby Heenan, I can't help but think of Nick Bockwinkel, an absolute asshole. An absolute asshole.
Yeah, that dude's not making. That guy's not making any of my list,
no,
bro.
No. I'm not saying he would be on this list, but I do think of those days when Heenan was managing Bockwinkel. Heenan was really hated, bro.
Listen,
big time.
Listen, Bullwinkle would make my list before Bockwinkel makes my list. All right, let's be honest.
I can see Heenan now. My new member of the family. Bullwinkle. Hey, Bobby.
That's hilarious.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
Go eat some turnbuckles. Again?
And then there's Betty Scala. I think Bullwinkle should be in the Hall of Fame.
Bullwinkle should be in the Hall of Fame. Nothing in my shorts. Again?
Number 5, superstar Billy Graham. I think you're digging my top 10, though. You don't seem to have too much of a problem with the top 10.
Dude, actually, I like your whole list outside of maybe one or two things. I mean, I like your list. Your list is good. Superstar Graham. Oh, yeah. Because you're talking about a guy who not only was the prototype for future looks like Hulk Hogan and stuff like that, but this was a guy who got to be a heel champion for back in those days. That's a considerable amount of time. He's very, very important to the heel's role in the history of this sport, one way or the other. The ultimate promo guy. You know, they said he could have done it without the Wizard, and I agree that he could have. I'm glad the Wizard was there, though. But Superstar was such a great heel worker on the mic, he didn't need the Wizard, oddly enough. But you're talking about one of the greatest talkers, one of the great. By the way, nobody sold a beating better than Superstar Graham. I stand by that.
Right.
Oh, did he sell getting
Jimmy,
walloped?
the pressure is on. Yeah. We've got 3 minutes. I'm running out of time.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 4, Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, absolutely. He's fucking great. And
I like that. Number 3,
fucking great.
Shawn Michaels.
I'm about that. You know, I think he's a great heel. Don't get me wrong. He should be somewhere on the list, but I'm not so sure he should be this high because I still want to get to my few names. So let's go.
You got it. Number 2, Roddy Piper.
He's perfectly ranked only because of the one individual ahead of him historically.
Well, you might as well just say the name then, bro, because you got
it. Well, the greatest heel in the history of this business, and the cash register says so too, was Mr. McMahon. And Mr. McMahon is the greatest heel of all time. My God, the millions and millions
you know,
of people
with all this, what killed
dead.
WCW, if Mr. McMahon never comes out, does the WWE survive that war?
Probably not. And wasn't it Bischoff himself who said if there was anybody he would have taken to steal for Nitro, it would have been Mr. McMahon?
Absolutely. And by the way, people are mentioning Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I think me and Jimmy totally agree.
He should be on the list.
But you know what? The list is tough. All right, Jimmy, hit me with who you thought. What's going on here?
All right, the names that I didn't see, and I'll slap them out quickly. Jim Cornette has to be on this list. Somewhere on this list, Jim Cornette must exist.
Who goes? All right, I'm challenging you. Cornette's on. Who goes?
All right, let's take Kabuki off.
All right, next.
Larry Zbyszko.
Who goes?
The Miz.
Wow. Okay, next.
Bye-bye. Stan Hansen.
Who goes?
That's a good one. Give me a second. Gino Hernandez over Stan Hansen.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Stan Hansen over Gino Hernandez.
Very good.
Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart. Who goes?
Ooh.
You're running out of guys to pull, man.
That might be a problem. I'm almost done. Wow. I'm not doing it. I'm done. I'm good. See, so I came up with
Who else
3.
is on your list that's missing?
Well, I mentioned Yokozuna. Hollywood Hogan has to be on this list.
That was
Matter
a
of fact,
mistake by me. He should have been on there. Yeah.
he would be in my top 10.
He should have been over Kabuki. That would have been the switch for me.
Yeah, he is one of the greatest villains of all time and one of the greatest faces of all time. Too bad if you don't like it. That's the way it happens. Nope, that's it. We're good. That's it.
With that, I want to
Great job.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank the great PN News, Paul New, for joining us in the Mike Halleck tribute. Mike, if you could hear me up there, and I know you can, and you could hear Jimmy, we do miss you. We always considered you a friend. I mean, to this day, your passing has hurt. And I'll quote the great Keanu Reeves when he was asked the question, do you know what happens when people die? I guess challenging if there's a heaven or not. But Keanu Reeves' answer was, the one thing for sure is the people that love you will miss you. Jimmy, you want to send us out?
You've been watching Monty and the Pharaoh. And until next week, thanks for tuning in, folks. Later.